Thank you for your kind introduction. Nice to meet you all. Okay, I will share my presentation. Can you see my presentation in the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is my presentation. It's about religious charitable endowments, or we term it in Islamic term as waqf, to address ecological and agrarian crisis. And I will bring some initiative from Indonesia, and I will share with you to highlight how religious institution can be developed to address some environment and agrarian problem in Indonesia. Actually, talking about Islamic perspective toward the environment and natural resources will necessarily require a long discussion. This is because many aspects should be brought into consideration if we want to understand this issue comprehensively. However, the purpose of my talk will highlight only one aspect, namely Islamic institution, for the conservation and management of natural resources. And especially, I will focus only on one institution called Wakaf, or Religious Charitable Endowment. By focusing on this specific institution, or Wakaf, I hope I can show you some stories from creation, to use the title of this project, based on some experiences in Indonesia. I will share with you some cases in which Wakaf are founded, established, to address some ecological and agrarian problems taking place in the country. Now, as I already mentioned, many aspects will be covered when we talk about Islamic perspective toward the universe and natural resources. So for the first topic, at least we can talk about 4 broad topics. But this is the first topic, is about the Islamic principle regarding attitude toward the universe, natural resources, and the relation between human and nature. If I am not mistaken, this is the topic that the previous speaker talked about from Christian perspective. And the second topic, if we discuss about Islamic perspective, is concerned with the protection and conservation of the basic components of natural resources, and it will deal with water, land, and soil, air, and surely about plants and animals. The third topic is about protection from the harmful impacts of products and processes generated by human activities. We know about pesticide, for instance, or radioactive substances, or natural catastrophes, including those related to climate crisis, for instance. And the fourth topic is about principle and policies which govern the protection and conservation of the environment. So it's related to the governance principles, and the principle can be the mandates of the individual. Every Muslim has to consider this principle, or maybe it can be the mandates of the governing authorities, so like the state, the government, for instance. And also there are some principles in Islamic perspective that govern public policy regarding the environment and natural resource management. And the latest topic is about Islamic institutions, Islamic institutions for the conservation and sustainable management of natural resources. For instance, there is institution which regulate reclamation of revival of land. There is institution to allocate some areas as natural reserve, and also sanctuaries, and also inviolable zones or al-harim. For instance, areas, the basin, river basin is considered al-harim. Coastal areas is considered al-harim. So it is prohibited to own the zone al-harim individually, but because this is considered the common area, and it is also protected for any disturbance or for any harmful activities. And the latest institution that I will talk about is charitable endowments or wakaf. Before going to the details, let's start with the discussion about the notion of wakaf and its component. As you see here, wakaf means a charitable and religious trust. So actually it constitutes the major avenue for private contribution to the public good, for the commons public good. And the foundation of wakaf will require some elements. The first is the founder. The founder can be individuals or social or legal entities like Islamic organizations or, for instance, companies, for instance, and also properties being donated. The properties can be movable or immovable. Movable like cash, for instance, or car, and immovable like land, building, etc. And the first component is the dedication of wakaf or wakaf deed. For instance, what is the purpose of the wakaf? The period of donation. The donation state as for a period of time or forever, for instance. And the beneficiaries, the beneficiaries can be members of family, can be certain groups, or can be for public, without any limitation. And the last is the trustee or mutawali who manage the wakaf and develop it according to its purpose. And the wakaf may take the form of land trust, for instance, agricultural and pastoral use, land use for conservation, for garden, etc. And also it may take the form of a fund or endowment for the financing of such charitable projects. So for instance, using crowdfunding mechanism, for instance, through internet, we can collect public fund and use it to establish wakaf, for instance. This is a cash wakaf. And then several aspects can be determined during the dedication of wakaf, as I mentioned before. What is the purpose of wakaf, and then what is the specific use of land? And this is very important because in many areas, the land is donated as wakaf with special limitation that land used for forest, for instance, or land used for food production, for instance. And then during the dedication of wakaf, the founder can define what benefit to be provided through the wakaf. And then founder also can define who is the beneficiaries? Who are the beneficiaries? For instance, the beneficiaries can be confined among family members. It's called wakaf ahli or wakaf for the family. It can be allocated to specific groups, or for public. And in Indonesia, wakaf is well recognized because we have a specific law regulating wakaf, law number 41, 2004. In this law, Article 1 state that wakaf is legal act of the wakif to spirit and or provide part of his properties to be used in perpetuity for forever, or for a certain period of time, for instance, for 5 years or 10 years. After that, the properties will be returned to the wakif. According to his or her wills, for the purpose of Islamic worship and or for general welfare in accordance with the Sharia. So here we understand that wakaf can be stayed for a limited time and also for forever. And also the purpose is varied. I will explain later. But what I want to emphasize that the beneficiary is not only limited to the Muslims. The beneficiaries of wakaf can include all people from all religious background, except for wakaf, whose purpose is dedicated for Islamic worship. For instance, donated for mosque, for instance. In this case, the beneficiaries will be limited to the Muslim. But if wakaf donated, for instance, for establishing forest wakaf or plantation wakaf, then it can cover beneficiaries from different religious background. And the purpose and significance of wakaf, we can see here, Article 22 in wakaf law in Indonesia. The purpose of wakaf can be dedicated for several purposes. The first is for Islamic ritual services and facilities. In this case, the beneficiaries confined to Muslim, But for other purpose, it can cover all people from different religious background. So the second purpose can be education and health services and facilities. The third for to support the poor, neglected child, orphan, as well as scholarship. The fourth is to improve and advance the economy of Ummah. Although this is the reference to Ummah, actually it can cover also non-Muslim. And this is stated in the last purpose, public welfare. All activities that related to public welfare can also become the purpose of wakaf, as long as it not violates Sharia and law. So we see here how inclusive is the purpose of wakaf. And then if we consider this purpose, actually wakaf has many significance. The first is that wakaf can establish public good, and in some case it will form the commons, pastoral land or forest wakaf. It's become the common, and also through the wakaf, the founder can define specific land use. For instance, the land donated for food production, or for forest, or for plantation. And then the founder also can define what kind of access and benefit that people can get from the wakaf, yeah. For instance, use right to use the land, for instance, yeah. Not to own because this is wakaf, but right to use land, to use agricultural land, for instance. Or in broader term, the benefit can be environmental services if the wakaf in the form of forest wakaf. And also, by using wakaf, it can counter various mechanisms of exclusion and fragmentation. I will explain this later. And also can counter forces of land and forest conversion, because we know in Indonesia, the number of land and forest conversion is still high. And by using wakaf, it is actually can counter this process. And also by using wakaf, we can combine different kind of wakaf. Yeah, for instance, we can also collect fund. We can also mobilize movable goods to finance forest wakaf, for instance, or to finance plantation wakaf, or to finance paddy field wakaf, for instance. Yeah. So by combining land and other kind of wakaf, actually we can solve also the problem of financialization. Now, let's go to the historical precedents where we need to consider wakaf as a feasible scheme to address environmental and agrarian crisis. I quote two references here. The first is from Abbasi. He stated that wakaf is very enormous in Muslim societies, and the reason for this enormous proliferation of wakaf is said to be the protection of property right in Muslim societies. Yeah, and he mentioned two historical process. Firstly, the state was the legal owner of most of the land, and the farmer only can use it. Yeah, so the state can easily take back the land. And then secondly, it is a common practice in the past where state can confiscate land, yeah, from the people, yeah, and they take the land and then give it to for instance, to strengthen his power, for instance. Yeah. So by using wakaf, then a farmer can protect their land, because if land donated as wakaf, and then it's basically belongs to the God. Yeah, belongs to the God, and nobody can sell it, can take over it, and etc. And this significant continues until the colonial period. So, for instance, in Algeria, the colons, yeah, French settlers, try to purchase and get land, but they repeatedly frustrated because most of land in Algeria has been designated as wakaf. So here we see the significance of wakaf as mechanism to protect land, yeah, to counter the exclusion. Yeah. And another aspect, wakaf can also be used to provide access, yeah, to family members, especially to women, because if we talk about inheritance system in Islam, the division of property is unequal between daughter and son. Yeah, son can get twice more. Yeah, can get twofold. Yeah, from their parent rather than the doctors. And by using wakaf instead of inheritance law, inheritance system, wakaf can be also a scheme to provide access, especially to women. So we see here, if we consider historical precedent, Wakaf become part of the struggle against exclusion here, and also become part of the struggle to give access, especially to women. And then now we turn to Indonesian situation. And before I share some initiative, Wakaf initiative from different part of the country, I will give you some illustration about the challenge in Indonesia, environmental challenge and also agrarian challenge. For instance, if we see here, the deforestation is still high, although the tendency is decreasing from time to time, but it's still the number is still high. For instance, here we see 0.48 million hectares deforested between 2016 to 2017, and mostly in state forests, mostly in state forests, the red line. So this is still a big challenge in Indonesia, and also forest fire, something like that. And then here we see the challenge of large-scale land acquisition, and especially it's related to oil palm expansion in many parts in Indonesia. Many forests, many agricultural land converted into oil palm plantation, and especially it happened during decentralization era, because now Indonesia use local autonomy in managing the country, and the district government has more authority to allocate land and to give to the investors. So it happened that many areas converted into oil palm, and the impact is very massive here, because it's not only about the conversion of land use, but also it includes as well grabbing land from local community, from customary area. This is just to illustrate how in one district in central Kalimantan, Seruyan district, the area of oil palm cover perhaps half of the district area, and also it encroaches the national park. So you can imagine the situation. And due to this process, we can see here that the number of village was landscape mainly characterized by paddy field. This is village with most areas used as paddy field to produce food to feed the country, is significantly decreasing from 2003 to 2011. It is the period when the oil palm expand throughout the country. So we see here the challenge of the agrarianization. The landscape area in the village changed drastically, and also in Java, especially, the conversion of paddy field is very fast. The total number of paddy field conversion is more than 1,000 hectares per year. So this is you can just imagine if all paddy field area become oil palm plantation, become settlement, become infrastructure. So the food security in Indonesia will be threatened, will be damaged. sorry, this is still in Bahasa. And part of the story is the challenge of the peasantization, because the conversion of land into large-scale oil palm plantation owned by the companies, because paddy field conversion, the number of peasant is significantly decreasing, from 2003 till 2013, more than 5 million families. And it is become problematic because when they depart from the agricultural sector, they could not find their place in the industrial sector, because the industry could not absorb all of them. So this has become the problem. So this is just to illustrate to you about the challenge of environmental and agrarian crisis in Indonesia. And given this background, I find that in some communities, they use wakaf and develop wakaf to address this kind of problem. So I wrote a book in 2019, and the book discuss 4 cases of wakaf in East Java province, 2 districts in East Java province, 1 in Banten province, and the last in Aceh province. So they develop differently. For instance, in these 2 districts, the land was donated as wakaf, and the founder state that the land should be maintained as paddy field, to produce food for the people. But interestingly, in this district, the beneficiaries are confined to family members, In Jombang, it combined family members and for public purposes. In Pandeglang, the wakaf established as plantation, and the produce, the benefit will be distributed to surrounding people. And in Aceh Besar, the wakaf was developed to be forest. So this is the case of forest wakaf. This is just to illustrate some case of forest wakaf. This is a wakaf in Bogor, in my hometown in West Java. So this is the illustration how green the area, and it is used wakaf to establish this. So the initiator mobilize fund from different sources, and then buy critical land, the forested land, and then planted trees, and it's reforested again. This is the case in Aceh, in the upstream Krung Aceh, Krung River. So they use crowdfunding through different channel, through Facebook, social media, through internet, and then they buy land in different parts of the upstream area, and then they establish wakaf. This is the case in Aceh, and this is the case in East Java. This is wakaf for paddy field, as I mentioned before, and I'm sorry, so this is in Bahasa, but this is the detail about the wakaf. Who is the founder? What kind of wakaf? What kind of the purpose? What is the land? What is the land use, for instance, what is the benefits, who are the beneficiaries, yeah, something like that. So it's to explain more detail about the case of wakaf for paddy field in East Java. And this is the case of estate wakaf, plantation wakaf in Banten. So you see here they use crowdfunding through internet to mobilize fund from the people. This number represents the situation in 2019 when I wrote the book, and this is the scheme. Yeah, so they mobilize fund from the people and manage in rumah wakaf. This is the initiator, the trustee, and then they involve people to provide land as wakaf, some with buying the land, some with donation as well, I think, according to their profile. And then they develop coconut, yeah, in this area, and lada. What is lada in English? I forgot. And the profit from this plantation used as a social fund to be allocated to surrounding communities, to economic empowerment, scholarship, yeah, something like that. So if we reflect this instance, these cases from different parts of Indonesia, you can see here they motivated by religious spirit, and then they use wakaf as a scheme, and by wakaf for sure they change the tenure regime from individual property rights to be the commons, yeah, the commons, because wakaf belong to the God and the benefits goes to the people. And then actually they combine between ecological concern with economic solidarity. Yeah? So this is what we can reflect from several cases, and by doing so, actually they shift, yeah, the paradigm, yeah, the dominant paradigm where economic interests become the highest value, become the highest rank, yeah, and then society should be arranged according to the economy, yeah, as we see in late capitalist system, and for sure, environment become merely resources, become objects to exploit it to serve the economic interests of the society. But by using wakaf, it is transformed into the new alternative paradigm where the environment or nature, yeah, in general consider as a theophany, yeah, as theophany, yeah, because land belong to the God. It's become in Arabic it called ayat kauniyah, yeah. Sorry, I got difficulty to translate in English, but then society in the second order, society is not the owner of the environment. God owns the nature. Yeah. Society should adjust their structure, their lifestyle, their political system according to nature, and then economy is only instruments, yeah, not as the highest value. So this is the spirit of wakaf, as I can understand from several cases in Indonesia, and also by learn from that case, actually, we can develop some model. This is a model, not empirical cases, but the model actually refer to the empirical one. Yeah? So, for instance, I'm sorry, still in Bahasa, I don't have time to translate it, but wakaf can be a mechanism for counter fragmentation, because as we know, the reason why farmer peasant in Indonesia are very poor, because their land holding is very small, yeah? And one of the reasons behind this is the fragmentation of land, because the inheritance system. So if we use this process, yeah, of course, land will be fragmented from generation to generation. But if land not inherited, but it donated as wakaf for family members, yeah, so it can be maintained as it is, but the benefit can be distributed to the family members. And wakaf actually can be used to consolidate small piece of land owned by small farmers, to consolidate it into the bigger one, and can be used more productive using modern mechanics, for instance, through joint wakaf. Yeah, so they jointly donated the land to one institution they established, a cooperative, or yeah. But then the benefits goes back to them, to the former landowner, for instance, and many others. Yeah, many others model can be developed actually. Yeah? For instance, also to address a problem of post disaster, or to mitigate disaster, for instance, yeah, to consolidate land, yeah, and then use for disaster mitigation, for instance. Yeah, I think that's all what I can share from Indonesia's experience. Thank you for your attention.